My name is Peter McCullough. I'm an aviation lawyer based in Hong Kong. I'm going to talk now about some of the types of claims that can be made when travelling as an air passenger against an airline. It's in the context of someone suffering an injury on board the aircraft or in the airport. So typically the events would be an accident whilst boarding the aircraft, so that could be a slip on the airport steps or on the jet bridge. It could be something which happens during the flight itself, so it could be a stewardess spilling boiling coffee or tea onto a passenger. It could be an item falling from an overhead bin on board the aircraft. That's the most common type of injury. It could be injury suffered during a bad landing, but turbulence happens increasingly, and people, despite warnings given on board, do not always strap themselves in for the whole flight, so turbulence can be a problem. It can be events such as food poisoning, which can arise through eating the aircraft meal. Increasingly as well, we're coming across assaults by the passengers, either through drink or air rage or something of this nature. So just breaking things down a little bit. In law, there's something called the burden of proof. So the airline has to establish legal liability against the airline and make the claim stick against the airline. Now, around the world, there's lots of different airlines operating in lots of different countries, and potentially lots of different legal systems all at play. What we have to get around those problems is an international air law convention called the Montreal Convention, which imposes a regime onto the airline whereby they're at fault. In return for that, there are fixed limits of compensation payable, but the airline is at fault, and this is a no-fault system that they have to adhere to. Some things I would recommend to passengers that suffer injury at an airport or on board the aircraft. Certain things they should do. Firstly, seek medical attention. The cabin crew are often in receipt of first aid training and should be able to help. When an incident occurs, it's important that it's logged and that there's a record of it. So always report the event to the cabin crew on board or a ground supervisor when you get off the aircraft if that's not been possible. They will prepare an airline's own incident report form. You're entitled to a copy, so request a copy and keep hold of it and pass this to your lawyer when you submit the claim. Witnesses, well, often on an aircraft there's lots of people sitting around you, and the injury or incident may have been witnessed and seen by them at the time, people sit in close proximity. If there's a dispute about whether the event happened or the circumstances of how it happened, then having a witness is a good thing, and if you can, try and get the name and address and contact details for the witness. If it's something that can be recorded on a camera, either on a phone or a handheld camera, then take pictures. It might be that coffee was spilt, so get a picture of the coffee spillage. It might be there's a red burn mark that will show up on the camera as well, so take pictures of that. And again, with your travel documents, your boarding card, your ticket, the temptation would be to throw those away at the end of a journey, thinking you don't need them again. When you submit the claim to the airline, they will ask proof of your identity and proof of travel, and by retaining these documents, you have the proof of travel, and your lawyer can submit that to the airline when you make the claim. Feel free to approach me if you have an instruction, if you think this may apply. I'm happy to give some assistance. Thank you.